Hello and welcome to Non-Inkables. We had a crazy weekend. Can't talk. Hello and welcome to Non-Inkables. We had a crazy weekend, but we were able to get a Ursula. So pretty. Brian was able to get it for us at the Games of Concord Set Championships. I was unsuccessful this time, but very close every time. So I feel like last time for the Stitch Championships, we went to 2. I got first place at 1, and I didn't even make it to top 8 for the other. But this time, I was pretty much consistently, for the most part, at least top 8 or close. So I feel like I've gotten a lot better. But I also feel like the people we play with also got a lot better. Okay, so last week, Friday, we played at DVY, which is kind of like one of our favorite stores locally. And we call it going to church because someone was like, hey, you guys going to church on Friday? And we're like, what? And then they were talking about going to a game. So I played my regular Ruby Amethyst deck. I think I played Edmund's version with the big Sisus. And then I think I took out like 2 Maleficents and added 2 Tremaines or something. I don't really remember. But I was 3-0 there. I played Purple Steel versus Brian. And I went 2-1. Which was unexpected because I had played him at home for like 2 hours prior to going to DVY, and I had lost almost every single game because I feel like his Purple Steel is teched against my Ruby Amethyst because all of his characters are big. So he has like Mr. Smee, he has Lawrence, which is the 4/4, and so all of his stuff is unbrawlable, unmedusa-able, and it counteracts Flynn. He's very surprised that I won. And then after that, I played a Amber Steel deck, and I won that one 2-1. And the crazy part is one of the games I won, he had 3 flutes on the board, but he kind of bricked. So I got very lucky. And it was really funny because the person was playing, every time he would get a card, he's like, oh, this is a great card. Or like, oh, I have 4 perfectly good mana to use, blah, blah, blah. It was just interesting. That's funny. He was like commentating himself. And then after that, I played a Ruby Sapphire deck, which I won. One I won with Go Bounce at the end. And then the other one, I just went super aggro and they only got to 6 lore and I got to 20. So that was fun. And then because we had extra time, that person also had a Amber Emerald deck. And so he's like, oh, do you want to practice against Amber Emerald? And I was like, yeah, I've never played Amber Emerald with my deck, really with any deck. So I played against his Amber Emerald, and that big Sisu is amazing against that deck. And so I was like, this is great. I love it. I'm keeping in this big Sisu. So that was Friday. Then Saturday, we went to Games of Concord. And turns out I don't sleep before competitions. So before the Texas Fort Worth, I think I slept like 1.5 hours. And then before Games of Concord, I also slept 1.5 hours. I woke up, I went to bed early at like 10, I guess early-ish. And then I woke up at 1 a.m. and I was like, great, I'm so awake. I hate this. So not a lot of sleep, but I felt okay. Games of Concord, first game, I played a mirror match and I won the first game. And I lost the first game. I won the second game. So first game, it was like I was at like 13 and they were at 20. Second game, I was at 19 and they were at 8 and I Go Bounced. And then the third game went to turns and they had gotten to they were getting more lore in the beginning because they were on the play and they got to like 12 and I was at like 6. And then I kind of stopped them getting any lore and I got to 13 by the end of the turns. And so I ended up in a draw, which was very annoying. And I think it took so much time just because the opponent played a bit slower, thought more. And I think had we had time to play that, I would have totally beat him. Because when we ended, he had nothing on the board and I had a goat and a castle. Like, what are you going to do? Which I feel like kind of messed up with my chances, but whatever. Then, because of the draw, I matched after that to a Blurple deck. And it's one of the people we play quite often. And her husband makes her deck for her. And he's like very into deck building and he plays green steel pretty aggressive, like aggro style. And he ended up winning the event. So he made her a Blurple deck. And the last time I played her, she was playing like green blue with locations and with basically everything quested for 2 or 3. And so this Blurple Bowl deck was similar. The first game I was on the play and I won. She did get to 19 lore, but then I had 3 Queen's Castles on the board, which was brutal. So it was like I had 2 Queen's Castles, which helped me catch up. And then I got a 3rd Queen's Castle and she couldn't do anything because all her characters are very weak. They're all like 1/3s or 1/2s, but they all quest for a lot. And I think I was able to stop her questing. And then the second game I was on the draw and she won. She had a McDuck Manor on the board and a Queen's Castle that I couldn't do anything about. So I only got to 7 lore. Then the third game I was on the play again and I was able to kind of control her aggressive stuff because she has like Curse Merfolk and she has Caterpillar and she has the 2-drop Pinocchio that quests for 3. All those little things that quest for a bunch. So I was able to control all of that. And then I got 2 Queen's Castles out that she couldn't do anything about. And so I won. The next one, I played one of our friends who plays a Emerald Steel discard aggressive deck with like Prince John and Curse Merfolk and Flynn Hider. We call it Jank because it has all this random stuff. But it was just too aggressive. I couldn't do anything. And I was on the play both times and I lost both times. And then after that, I played a Emerald Amethyst hyper aggressive deck. The first game I lost. They just Pegasus, Curse Merfolk, quest. It was just like they got 220. I was at 4. The second game I was on the play and I was able to get my Flynn Rider out and they couldn't do anything about my Flynn Rider. And so I won that one. And then I was like, oh, I need to get the Flynn Rider. So third game, I did not find my Flynn Rider. And they got to 18. And I think I got to like 11. I was at 8 at that time. And then they put an Isabella out. And I didn't have a Medusa or Be Prepared to take care of the Isabella, unfortunately. And I looked at my deck afterwards. Like it was pretty far down for me to get those things. So I lost, which was unfortunate. And then the last game I played was Purple Steel. And that one, I think it was a pretty new player. So I won that one pretty easily. So in the end, at Games of Concord, I ended up being 13th out of 24. And then Brian got into top 8 as the 3rd seed. In quarterfinals, he played a Ruby Amethyst deck. It was like a little kid. And he beat him pretty easily. And then he kind of felt bad because I think the little kid like didn't have all the components. Like it wasn't a 4 of type deck. And so Brian agreed to give him one of our Be Prepared because we were going to see him the next day. Because he felt bad he beat the little kid. And then in semifinals, he played another Ruby Amethyst player. And they went to 3 games. And it was like neck and neck. It was like so close. And he ended up losing there. And talking to Brian afterwards, he said that like he was really tired and also really hungry and probably didn't make the greatest decisions. He just wanted to be aggressive and quest probably when he shouldn't have and just kind of get it over with, which I felt a lot whenever I get towards like the later games even in like a 6 or 5 round Swiss towards later games, I'm kind of like, I just want to be done. And like, I know I'm not making great decisions. So I think when we go to Las Vegas, either we're going to have to like maybe DoorDash food to the place or bring food or something. Cause I think both of us, when we get hungry, we start making dumb decisions. I'm like, I'll just quest. Yeah. And so we did get the Ursula though. So then after that, the next game was low stress because we're like, oh, we already got it. So it's easy peasy after this. No math though, but that's okay. Okay. So that was Games of Concord. The next day we went to King Kong games. We chose to go to King Kong because our teammate Tyler was going to NorCal TCG and I didn't want to get knocked out of top 8 again by him. And so we went to King Kong games. It was super well run. It's like the best tournament we've ever played in. So they started at 12 and they checked everyone in. They counted everyone's cards to make sure they had 60 cards. And turns out one of the people accidentally had 59 cards in their deck. And so they had to find like one extra card to add in at the last minute. That was just in the color they were playing. And then they only had 59 sleeves because they just brought the deck with them. And so then they had to buy a whole new set of sleeves. So that's kind of stressful pre-competition. But they started the competition at 1. And then each round started right on the hour. And like everyone would finish and then they would go to turns and then the turns would finish and then like immediately they're like, oh, next round is up. And it was so fast. I was like, this is such a fast turnaround time. No competition we've been to so far has had such a fast turnaround time. And it ran so smoothly. It was really good. So that competition, round 1, I played the same person I played round 1 the previous day. And let's see what my notes are. I went first the first time and I lost. I ended up with like 2 B preps in my hand and then I kind of stopped inking around 7 and I really should have kept inking, but I didn't have. I had like a goat and a snake and I didn't really want to ink either of those. So he got to 20 and I was at 14. The second game I was on the play again and I won pretty handedly. I think I had scores don't look like I had a Flynn out, but I got to 17. They were only at 2 and then I go bounced. So it was easy. And then the third game I was on the draw and then I couldn't answer his Flynn. So I was looking through my deck. I had so many cards in hand, trying to find an answer to the Flynn. And I thought about it later. So because I was trying to find like a brawl to answer the Flynn, right? But what I should have done is just not drawn so many cards and then played like a fox or something. And then we would be equal strength in that. Because the likelihood that I would find a card that was equal strength to his cards, like to his Sisu that he had out, would be, I think, higher than if I just kept drawing and making his Sisu stronger and stronger and stronger, and then I could only answer the Flynn, right? So I think that was a misplay on my part, which I thought about later, and I was like, oh, I probably should have done that. And then after that, I played a blue steel player who had played at Games of Martinez. The first game I put out, he put out a bunch, he had an Ariel out and a Cogsworth. So obviously I B-prepped that, and then I put out 3 Queen's Castles. So he could do nothing. The second game, I went second, that first game. The second game, I went second. And then I think he was able to, we were both at 15 and 15, and then he just got lower faster. I don't think he found his lucky dime. I think he quested, actually. And I couldn't do anything because they were like board characters. And then the third game, I had a Flynn out, and I kind of just ran away with the game because I got to 20 and he was only at 1 lower. The third round, I played another blue steel, and his deck was interesting. So it was blue steel, but it had like Cloud Kicker and stuff. And he couldn't find, like, he didn't get his 1-drop kit until like turn 4, turn 5 or something. And so he could never do the shift. And so the first game I was on the play and I won pretty easily. I had a castle and then I had 2 big Sisus that quested. And then the second game I was on the draw and he only got to 7 lower before I won. So it wasn't a super hard match. I think he had really bad card draw and also was a relatively inexperienced player. The fourth game I played against Edmund. So not the Ruby Amethyst Edmund, but the other Edmund that plays locally. And he got to, I think, top 64 in Atlanta or Chicago. One of the two. I don't remember. He's very good. And so he was playing blue steel, which is not what he usually plays. He usually also plays Ruby Amethyst, like the Edmund that won Fort Worth. And it was so interesting because I was, very stressed out, like very anxious because I know he's really good. And when we practice with Tyler, he plays blue steel, but he thinks and he like takes his time to think, whereas Edmund plays really fast, like super fast. Like he's okay with you drawing your card while he's still drawing his card for Popsicle. He's just like, go ahead. It's very fast. And I was very stressed out. I did win the die roll. The first game, I got to 12 before he got any lower. And then I think the ending, I got to 17 and he was at 12. And then I wrote down that he had Tamatoa, but he also had Chenpo. So I couldn't deal with both of them. The second game I won, I was on the play, and then it looks like I got a Flynn out. I got my Sisu, all that stuff. And then he just didn't have the cards to do the things he needed and to ramp and stuff. The third game was very close. We went to turns and there was some big misplays on my part. I think I was tired and also I was panicked and stressed, which I need to figure out how to deal with. I think maybe I need to meditate and maybe just take a breath and not be so scared. So I was questing, getting lower the whole time, right? So I think there was at one point where I think I forgot to ink because I was planning to like quest and then I was going to double Fox bounce to kill something. And then I was like, wait, I only have 5 ink. And I like didn't take time to really consider like maybe I didn't ink. And I think also part of it is because we were the last game playing and it was like at one of the top tables. And so then there was like a crowd around us, which stressed me out, very anxious. And so I think because of that, like his Hiram stayed on an extra turn. And then we kept going. I got to 16 and then he had quested for like 7 with his Tamatoa. And then I think played a popsicle. He had a Mickey Mouse detective, a Hiram, and a Tamatoa on board. And he had played a popsicle, which I forgot. So his Tamatoa would have quested for 8, which didn't click in my head. And then I had out a castle and a Maleficent. And I had drawn a bunch of cards because he had Whole New Worlded at some point. And so what I could have done is played a Maui and run the Maui and the Maleficent into the Tamatoa to kill the Tamatoa. I didn't think of that because I didn't think his Tamatoa could quest for 7. And I didn't realize that his Tamatoa could quest for 8. And so instead I played a big Sisu, which got rid of the Mickey Mouse and the Hiram. And so then the next turn he just won. And I was like, what? His Tamatoa quest for 8. And I was, 1, I was tired. 2, I was scared. There's anxious. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of mental issues, I feel like, for that game. But I think the fact that it was still so close, despite me possibly not inking for a turn because my brain was not on, I think speaks to how much better I play now than I used to play. Like how high my skill has gone. So yeah. And then the last person I played was someone I played at Phantomich. So he was playing a kind of aggressive Amber Ruby deck. And I felt kind of bad. So the first game I was on the play, he was questing. And then he had, I think like on the board, he had a Rapunzel. He had played 2 of the little Lilos that quest for 2 and then something else and was like gonna quest for a bunch. And I played a big Sisu. I shifted a Sisu. And so killed this board. And then I quested for 7. And then the next turn I quested again. And so I won. The second game I was on the draw, and that one I lost, I think because I think he got rid of my CC, so I couldn't shift it. And then he just quests faster. And then the third game I won. I was able to get rid of his board pretty easily. And when I played him in Phantomich, I didn't have that Sisu, and it was much harder. So I think the Sisu was a good call. I think that Sisu has helped me a lot in terms of playing against like that Amber Emerald that I practiced against, and then against the ones with the little questers. Although I still think it's a little too slow when you're playing against like a hyper aggressive Emerald Amethyst deck. Although I think when I was playing the Emerald Amethyst deck at Games of Concord, I hadn't really figured out quite how to best play it. And then after the second game when I won because of the Flynn, I was like, okay, I need the Flynn. The Flynn is what I need so I can keep up with the lore that they get, right? Because all their characters are small. So my Flynn might be the strongest one, even without the Sisu. But definitely with like a fox or a snake on the board, my Flynn will be the strongest one. And so it was interesting because my opponent was like, oh, I'm always very scared to play you because, and I was like, why? I'm not mean. And she's like, no, because you're always like thinking, like even between games in the same round, like you were saying, I need to find that Flynn. And the fact that you like think about how to, like you adjust your strategy in between rounds, just to like in between games, even to figure out how to best beat opponent. Like, oh, and I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like, I feel like kind of developed as I've gotten better because I think when I was playing before, I didn't really think about strategy almost. It was just like I was just playing the game. And if I saw a video about someone talking about a strategy, I was like, oh, I can incorporate that. But I didn't think of any strategies on my own. And I feel like now I kind of think about how to beat people. I also think that now when I play, I know in like the first 3 rounds, my brain is good. My brain is thinking like, okay, I'm going to play this and you're at this many ink. What could you possibly play to beat that? Right? And then I'm like, oh, if you play this, that would be really bad. Maybe I don't want to go so wide. Or I think about like, oh, you can play castle next turn. Do I have the stuff I need to kill the castle? Maybe I don't want to ink this fox or this Maui. I want to save that to kill the castle. Maybe I don't want to quest because maybe I need that to kill the castle. You know, those kind of things, which I didn't think about at all before. So I think that speaks to Just my level that I play at has increased. However, I feel like that only lasts for 3 rounds usually. And then after that, my brain goes back to like, have 5 ink. I will play Maui because he is 5 ink. Have 6 ink. I will play Medusa. It goes back to like that very simplistic way of playing. And I'll talk more about the levels eventually in some video when I have time, because that is on my list. It's interesting to think of like the levels of playing where like level 1, you really just are playing the cards. And then level 2, you're thinking about like possible future plays and like what your opponent could play. And then level 3 is like what your opponent thinks you have, you know, like getting more and more meta each time. And so, yeah, I think overall, I'm pretty happy with my performance over set champs. I didn't win in Ursula, but I was very close very many times. So if it had been like next set champs where you get a card for top 8, I would have 3 of them. So I feel like I have been much more consistent, and I feel that I've gotten a lot better, even if the results don't necessarily show it. And I think that's what happens sometimes. Your results may not always show your actual skill, and you just keep playing, and then eventually the randomness and variance will kind of cancel itself out and the results will be there. Yeah, so I think overall Ursula set champs, I feel very good about how I did and how much I've improved. I think Brian, I'm very happy that Brian got a card, because last set champs he didn't get anything, even though he did make it to top 8 on the second set champs we went. And I think really what changed is at the beginning of set champs, he was playing Emerald Steel because it's Emerald Steel, Bucky discard, you know, it's like the best deck. And it just didn't work for him. And then he was so frustrated because he felt like he was playing the best deck, but it wasn't giving the results. And it's just like, then it's just you. It's either chance or it's you. And so he kind of felt pretty defeated. And then he started kind of cooking his own purple steel deck and really like getting into deck building. So he would test his purple steel against my deck. He would test it against the other meta decks, right? Run it through the gauntlet. And so he would basically keep thinking about it, making tweaks. And I feel like this purple steel deck is really like his deck. And he made this deck and has thought about everything that's in his deck. And he's still like changing it daily. And so I think that this is like his deck. He likes the play style. And basically he's like, I'm just playing Ruby Amethyst, but instead of Ruby, I have steel removal. And so like we have a lot of the same strategies in terms of what we do when we play. And so, yeah, I feel like this is like his deck. And just how I feel like Ruby Amethyst is my deck, I feel very comfortable playing it. And I like how it plays, and I like how much thinking goes into it. And as the more I play Ruby Amethyst, the more I realize like Ruby Amethyst, I think, is a both easy and hard deck to play. I think it's easy in terms of like the cards, everything is inkable. Like you have everything at every ink number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can just go in a row and you can play, right? And sometimes that works out fine. As opposed to like when you play like a ramp deck, you know, it's harder to know, like, you know, it pops a call on 1. You have to 1 jump or Mickey Mouse on 2, or maybe you have to play Smee, maybe you have to play Argus. Like I feel like it's much more, you have to know the lines more. Whereas in Ruby Amethyst, like even if you don't know the lines, you just play like, I have this many ink, I'll play this. It like works out okay in the beginning. But I think the difficulty in Ruby Amethyst is that it's so nuanced in how to play. And even like some of my opponents, like they played me and then they play someone else who plays Ruby Amethyst in the same tournament. And then like afterwards we have time, we'll talk about stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, I could tell that like they weren't as nuanced as you, because like, for example, I was playing Ruby Amethyst against the Blue Steel, like in the 3rd round at Games of Martinez, the one that was like pretty easy for me to beat with Cloud Kicker. And then they were playing the Blue Steel that I played the previous round. And that person was at 19 lore, right? And then their opponent had lethal. And they had a rabbit in hand. So if it was me, and they didn't have a goat, so if it was me, I would play the rabbit to see if I could top deck a goat, right? Because what they had on board could not get rid of what the opponent had on board. And nothing in their hand could get rid of what the opponent had on board. So your only option is to try to top deck a goat to win. And instead, I think they played like a Sisu, Peter Pan Shadow, and something else. And so they were like, oh, I'm just gonna try to win next turn. I was like, but your opponent, and even the opponent was like, I have lethal on board. Like I'm gonna, when your turn ends, I'm gonna win. And so there's nothing they could do. And then I was like, after their game, I was like, oh, I would have played the rabbit to try to see if you could get a goat. And I mean, we looked, and like, if they played the rabbit, they wouldn't have gotten a goat. So it wouldn't have worked, but like, that's your only option. And his opponent was like, yeah, it's like, when I was playing him, there's a lot of things he did where I was like, oh, Q would not have done that. That would have not been like the best play, you know? And I definitely feel that change in how I've played. I don't know where I was going with this tangent, but yeah. Oh, Ruby Amethyst being nuanced. I feel like that is the fun of Ruby Amethyst, is that nuance. And so like things like Edmund from the Fort Worth winner saying like he would shift Sisu on 6 and sing Be Prepared, turn early before the Ursula can take it out of your hand. And I was like, that is amazing. I have never thought of doing that. And then something Brian thought of this morning, which I'm definitely going to try out, is adding 2 Yzma. One, I love Yzma. She's one of my favorite characters, and I love the card. And I'm always sad when I don't have Yzma. And like one of my opponents had Yzma, and I was so jealous. I was like, I want a Yzma in my deck. But he thought of this morning putting 2 Yzmas in, and you could like Yzma your own. You could Yzma and then shift your Yzma and then bounce it. So I always talk about like, one of my favorite plays is playing a Tremaine and then shifting the Tremaine onto the same one that you just played and then bouncing that. And then, so you protected your Tremaines and then you got rid of 2 of their characters. So you could do a similar thing to Yzma. You could play Yzma on like your own character to draw a card. You could shift it, get rid of their Tamatoa. They get 2 cards, but they already have probably a ton of cards, so whatever. And then you could bounce back. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I never thought of that. So yeah, I feel like it's just a deck that is very interesting where you have to think about a lot of these things. Yeah. So other things I wanted to talk about, this is just for fun, show and tell. I bought a bunch of extended art for our enchanteds. They look like this. Look how cool that looks. I'm obsessed. We got a bunch of them for all of our enchanteds. So we have a ton of enchanteds because I have a problem with flying cards and I buy a ton of cards, and I will probably eventually do like a little video about all of our enchanteds. Ooh, wait, I need to show the money card. Where's the Elsa? Yeah, I buy too many cards, but now look at, they're so cute. I'm gonna figure out how to get this in focus and display them. Look at that champion stitch. It just looks cool. I feel like most card frames, they just put the black around the card, and then the card looks even smaller than it already is. Like the card is already small, and then you put that black frame on it, and then it looks like this tiny little dinky thing. Whereas these extended arts, I feel like they just look at that. Hey, she's so beautiful. So pretty. Anyways, I will eventually do a video that will showcase all of them, probably once I have them mounted onto the wall. So we have a lot because, one, I have very good luck when opening packs. So usually I will get, I think 2 enchanteds per case is our rate right now. And then we have pretty good luck with blister packs. That's how we got that's how we got one of our Elsa. So we ended up pulling a second Elsa from some random booster box I bought recently. And Brian has pulled 2 enchanteds, one from a sealed that we went to, one from his set championships for the Stitch set championships, where we got 1 pack per win. He got a enchanted from there. And then I got another enchanted on Friday when we played at DVY. We got 3 packs per win, and one of my packs had an enchanted Jensen. And so now our like set 4 enchanted collection is complete, which is crazy. And then I bought some of like the location ones because they're cheaper than buying like a tragic beast. And I was like, well, better get these for the collection. And now I'm kind of stuck in this place where I'm like, okay, I have so many of them. Do I want a full collection? Like, do I want to trade and or buy a full enchanted collection? And I kind of do. I want to try to see if I can trade for some of them because we have some duplicate. But if not, maybe buy them. They seem to be at everything's kind of at like a low dip in the prices. And I think with set 5 being more publicized, they're probably going to go up. So I got to make that decision soon. Yeah. So that is and then last week, what video? I released a video on all the new cards. There was a lot. That video took forever. The rest of the cards are going to get revealed today in like 45 minutes, which is pretty exciting. And so, yeah, it's going to be, I think, on probably another chaos thing on Discord with Rochelle. And so I will make a follow-up video with the remaining cards that have been released since I made that video on Friday. And then this weekend, we are going to Gen Con. I'm so excited. We've never been to Gen Con. And we signed up for a bunch of stuff, I think on the Thursday, I want to say, for Lorcana. And then I think I have one more on the Friday. But I was looking, I want to do more because I don't feel burned out right now. I feel very like reinvigorated with set champs. I was feeling a little burned out after the DLC because I was just tired. But I think last night I slept 11 hours. And so now I feel like very excited and I want to play more Lorcana. I want to get better. I want to make sure that I am ready for Vegas, which we are going to. We did get tickets. Pretty much everyone in our close-knit group here got tickets, and we're going to do a lot of play testing. Going to be ready. It's exciting because it's the first DLC with like new cards and no Pixelborn old. I mean, there's Pixelborn Connect, but no Pixelborn. So Brian also set up another station for playing Pixelborn Connect, like at my computer desk, because my computer died anyway, so I can like now hook up my laptop. I just can't get my Mac to run Pixelborn Connect. And I tried, because it opens and it says like damaged file or whatever. And then I was looking online and it says it's because it has some attribute because it's not from the App Store that says it's like not good and you can run some script thing and it should get rid of it. And I tried to do it and it didn't work. So I need to look more into that so I can fix that because I feel like that will be very good for practicing. And then we're going to go probably to our locals much more often. And I feel so lucky to live where we live and I don't want to move ever because if I wanted to and if I had the time, we have somewhere that has within like 30 minutes driving, somewhere that has League on Monday. I don't think I know of anything Tuesday that's close, but if we were to drive an hour, there would be somewhere where we could practice on Tuesday. Wednesday. I don't know if there's anything Wednesday. There's definitely 2 places on Thursday. There's a place on Friday that has DVY, our church, quote unquote church. Sunday, definitely at Fantomich. And then there's like a pretty active local network of people who are always like, I'm going to be here. Come play. I'm going to be here. Like, organizing that. And I think that'll happen a lot more as people get ready for Vegas because most of us are going to Vegas because it's so close. It's funny because the group near us, they were all getting an Airbnb for Vegas. And they were like, oh, do you and Brian want a room? And then I was like, no. I was thinking about it. I was like, I love all these guys, but I don't really want to be in a house with like 9 guys and me. Not that I think the guys are going to do anything weird, but like, I want to be in a hotel room. I want to be in a hotel room where I can walk to the Vegas location. And then if we get home late, I can order room service. I want to be fancy. And also, I feel like Airbnb is make you do a lot of chores now. And I don't want to do that. So yeah, we're staying in a hotel. But yeah, so very excited for Gen Con. And Brian and I competing in some of the same stuff, but some different stuff because I don't think we realized when it went up, like you could sign up for events. And so we were a little late to it. And so there were a lot of events where I couldn't get both of us in. And so I'm doing like some drafts, some sealed, a starter deck and a constructed. And he's doing like similar, but he's not doing the constructed because I couldn't get him in. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to document it a little bit better than I did for Fort Worth because I feel like I didn't document Fort Worth very well at all. I think I took like 3 photos the first day and that was it. I'm going to try to document it a little bit better and try to share with you guys our experience. We're meeting up with Brian's brother and sister-in-law there, and they are like super into board games. They play board games all the time. They have like a whole group. They play all these different board games that like, it's not like they play Settlers of Catan. They play like, one time they were playing like some wastewater management board game or yeah, they just play like very indie games, I suppose. And so it'll be fun. I feel like they're the experts and we will just tag along with them. So we're going to do Lorcana definitely the first day and then maybe a little bit the second day for me. And then the rest of the time, it'll be Board Game Mania. And then, yeah, I'm very excited. So that is it for this podcast. I've met so many people, which has been really fun. And yeah, so many new people. And as always, keep shuffling. Hopefully you don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. So on Sunday, when Brian was playing, he has 10 uninkables in his whole entire deck. He mulligans pretty aggressively because he knows he only has 10 uninkables. And he had 6 uninkables in his hand. And he was like, what the heck? How did this happen? There's only 10 in the whole deck. So that is the non-inkables luck. And I was like, well, I mean, our channel's called non-inkables. And it's kind of expected. So yeah, as always, keep shuffling. Hopefully you don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables in your hand like Brian this Sunday. And that is it for me. Bye.